It used to be the case that the sermon from a rabbi was delivered only twice a year. Once, one before Yom Kippur, and the second time is before Pesach. I'm sure that some people would dream of this time, to come back to this time. But also now, all the sermons tend to be every week, but these particular two sermons are meant to be a little bit longer, which will not be the case this time, because we are live streaming and we are thinking of those who are sitting in front of their screens, and of course in the sanctuary. A Hasidic tale tells the story of a poor family who came to their rabbi and asked the rabbi to explain why all the bad things happened to them. No job, poor health, and one bad luck after the other. The rabbi suggested the following: take a piece of paper and place it somewhere where you can see it every day. Write on it this phrase: this too shall pass. The family got very angry. How will a piece of paper change our lives? This is absurd. But just in case, they did it. In about half a year, the same family returned to the rabbi. Rabbi, we don't know why, we don't know how, but it worked. Life slowly started to come back to normal and our lives improved. How did you do that? Rabbi looked at them and said, I don't know how it worked, but I know one thing. Keep this note where it is. In normal circumstances, I would say that this is a bad and unwise story, unuseful. You can't expect everything to change, and there is no magical words and notes which can change and improve your life. However, looking back at the past year, this story makes more sense. Many of us lived our lives as if it was going to last forever, for better or for worse. This too shall pass. One thing which shocked me when I first arrived to this country is how people could plan for 3 months, half a year, or 2 years in advance. You can make plans to meet a friend in 2 months and sometimes in half a year, and then when the day and time comes, it happens. I lived all my life in Russia and a few years in Israel. Sometimes you are lucky if you know that what you are going to do socially in a month or in a week. Planning to meet a friend can never happen in more than a week or 2 in advance. I remember asking myself, why? Why is it possible here? And the only answer I could get is, well, there is more stability. Therefore, you can predict, you can plan. In Russia, it is harder to make long-term planning and long-term investments because you know that rules can change. I think it's fair to say that in general, British society and economy is more suited for long-term planning, and it is reflected in individual behavior of people. Of course, now I understand that it is not the case for everybody in this country. Probably it says more about me and my circles of British friends than about the country as a whole. It will be wrong for me to make general statements about all people, but I think that the observation is still relevant. The environment, the context, the medium matters and shapes the way how you approach your life. A lot has changed for all of us over the past year. Now we are in a position of not being able to make plans. Now rules change all the time, everywhere. Now the long-term planning is different for all of us. It is hard and difficult time for us, but we know that people had many difficult periods of time, many different times before, the life was hard in many moments in human history, and people shared their experience, observations, and advice with us. People went through hard moments in the past, and our books are the treasure we need to learn from. Torah and all its commentaries is a collection of such lessons. It's a collective wisdom of our people, how to go through difficult moments in life and how to go through joyful moments in life. In it, we read a story of people who came out of slavery and spent 40 years in the desert before coming to the land where they can settle. 40 years. It sounds familiar to us now. It feels like we are wandering in the desert towards the promised land where we can settle. It may take a long time, but if we could do it, if they could do it, surely we can too. There is an interesting detail in the Hebrew calendar. 2 Jewish holidays, Yom Kippur and Purim, on exactly the opposite sides of the annual cycle, have sound-alike names. These days cannot be more distinct from one another. Purim has a noisy and celebratory mood, while Yom Kippur is a day of quiet reflection, prayer, and serenity. Yet early Jewish mystics made a connection between the two. They said Yom Kippurim, using the festival's biblical name, can be read as Yom Ke-Purim, the day like Purim. What do these days have in common? Well, Yom Kippur is about our relationship with God, but God remains a mystery to us. Unlike Moses, we don't see God, we don't hear from God, yet we treat God as equal and establish relationship with God through prayer, contemplation, and meditation. God is hidden from our lives, yet many feel and believe in God's presence. The Scroll of Esther, the main text of Purim, is one of 2 books in the entire Hebrew Bible which does not mention God's name. Jewish commentators attributed God's presence in Megillat Esther to the sequence of events. They felt a bit uncomfortable that God isn't there. Therefore, they found God in the sequence of events that led to the ultimate redemption of Jews from the oppressive rules. Coincidence of many unlikely factors is God's tool in our life, they say. It is the hidden presence of God that unites Purim and Yom Kippur. It may sound inappropriate, but this year's Yom Kippur seems to be one of the most Purim-like ever. Purim narrative reminds us that sometimes you can get an unexpected result and everything you planned can go in the opposite direction. Every single character in the story experiences the U-turn in the narrative during the Purim story. This year, Purim celebration in March marked the beginning of the pandemic. It led to the changes we made in our equipment, liturgy, synagogue practices. I'm sure you had to make 1 or 2 adjustments in your life too. This year we had a record number of people joining our Rosh Hashanah services, and yet the synagogue felt empty. Shabbat Shuva is a Shabbat of return. So I returned to one of my writings I did in the beginning of the pandemic, in the time of Purim. In it, I had 5 dreams of the world after the coronavirus. Now, half a year later, I think they're still relevant. And if only one of them will come true at the other end of the pandemic, the world will be a better place. First, communities matter. They say that the sincerest prayer is the prayer uttered on an airplane during a period of turbulence. We do not always remember our communities during times of prosperity and success, but it is in times of crisis when we need our communities the most. Community, interconnection, and interdependence are the highest values of Jewish people, and I hope it will remain so in the future. Community, it was gives us power, support, and strength. In the world of my dream, we will remember to support and strengthen our communities, even when this time of global turbulence and crisis is over, because this too shall pass. Second, expertise is back. Post-truth and fake news should no longer be tolerated. This outbreak demonstrated very well that it is not enough to make claims with confidence. In the world of my dreams, we listen to experts and act based on scientific truth and not according to the political need. 3. Cooperation is important. The world is more connected, interconnected, than many of us wish it were. In the world of my dreams, the bonds between nations, peoples, and countries are strong and genuine. The world before the coronavirus was the world which built fences and enhanced borders. In the world of my dream, we will start building bridges and connections again, because we know that it saves lives. People are not too proud to receive support. This is my 4th dream. In the world after the Second World War, there was a high rate of depression and mental health struggle among middle and upper class people. Those who used to be successful but lost their business and jobs during the crisis. In the world of my dream, people are not afraid and not too proud to receive and ask for help when they need it. In the words of Sidur Lev Chadash, may we never be too mean to give, nor too proud to receive, for in giving and receiving, we discover you, O God, and begin to understand the meaning of life. And the last one, the 5th dream. No charity is as strong as government. When we organize a social action project as a community, it helps those who need support. However, it does not always solve the core of the issue. Today it is clear that governments can act in a compassionate way and support people. In the world of my dream, compassion, justice, and loving kindness are the main principles of society and the core values of those in power. Whether you believe in God or not, whether you fast on Yom Kippur or not, whether you are a regular synagogue goer or an occasional visitor, may all the changes and challenges become an inspiration to improve ourselves, our society, and the world. May all of us be inscribed and sealed for a good year, and may all of us always remember, this too shall pass. Gmar Chatima Tova and Shabbat Shalom.